Today, I want to discuss with you guys with something. I had this pitch that I just created. I noticed that DCEU has become a debacle. So bear with me, and I just want you guys to know, if I ever got this chance, I really want to direct this. I don't have the money. I don't have that kind of big budget, and I'm not funded, and I don't have a loan, and I don't want to take out a loan. But just hear me out. I want you guys to know what you guys think about the pitch that I'm about to read to you. Now tell me if this is good. This is a pitch of the DCEU Re-fracnhise Warner Brothers DC Comics pitch. First movie, y'all know who I'm talking about. First movie, Superman, obviously. But tell me what you guys think about this title. Superman, Earth's Brightest Sun. Synopsis summary. Opening scene with an establishing shot of the Kent's farmhouse and flourishing crops. It takes place in 1985 in an early morning before the sun rises. A spark from the Earth's atmosphere shows a meteor-like object approaching at full speed from behind the Kent's household before the sun rises. The unidentified object lands in the far distance where you can vaguely hear the crash taking place off-screen, still showing the Kent's home. The sun rises as the rooster crows in the morning. Martha and Jonathan Kent, who are in their late 20s, soon to be Superman / Kal-El's parents, are on their way to a farmer's meeting. Martha Kent yells to John, "Come on, John, we're going to be late. Don't forget your paper about the Watergate system you had in mind." Jonathan Kent responds back with, Right. Don't want to forget that. Thanks, honey." Martha and Jonathan Kent makes their way to the truck. They fasten their seatbelts and head on over to the meeting. As they drive past their mailbox and massive crops, they both begin to talk about how they've longed for a child ever since Martha found out about her inability to give birth in the past. They continue to drive as they soon bypass a leeway to the open road. Martha hears a loud cry coming from the shortcut they took on the dirt road, echoing in between their crops and the Martins. All of a sudden, Martha yells out, "John, stop the car! Stop the car!" Jonathan stops as he spots the same thing Martha sees. A medium-sized crater made in between the Kents and the Martins' crops during that fateful morning. The cry continues to echo as Martha makes her way to the unknown pod, carrying what seems to be an infant. She places her ear to the pod as she listens to Kal-El's whimpers. She yells to John, "John, we need to get this open. Quick, there's a baby in here." John replies, "What? A baby?" Martha responds, Yes. Jonathan rushes back to his truck to find one of his tools to pry open the alien pod. He finds a crowbar. As Jonathan Kent tries his hardest to pry open the pod, it just wouldn't budge. They were both devastated, especially Martha, who took it to heart. She tries not to cry as she lays her head on top of the pod, saying to herself, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." With tears flowing down her eyes, her hand slides downward, which triggered the pod to open. Steam flowing from the pod, carrying Kal-El. Baby Kal-El, still whimpering, draped in his soon-to-be cape that is made from a substance that is known on Krypton as Killium fabric. Plus, a crystal projected from the side of Kal-El's feet. Martha picks up baby Kal as she tries to calm his cries. Jonathan walks over to see the little bundle of joy with his arms around Martha. John says, "Should we report this to the authorities?" Sarcastically saying. Martha's response, "He came from the heavens, John. This is what we wanted, remember?" John's response is in excitement. "And a boy at that. Hot dog. I've always wanted a son." Cuts to them trying to get the pod onto the truck, but struggling to do so. Approaching behind them is an unknown vehicle. Both of them nervous as they see who is coming towards them. It's the Martins. They're African American, by the way. James Martin steps out of the truck. He responds with, "John, is everything okay?" James looks back at the truck to see an alien pod they've been struggling to get onto their truck. Martha says to James, "We found a baby, James, in that thing, and..." James interrupts Martha and says the following, "No need to explain. I know how much you and John wanted this." As you can see, baby Cal sleeping in a weaving basket filled with pillow cushions. James smiles and tells them, "Need a hand with that?" Cuts to them finally getting the pod onto the truck and covering it with a large sheet. James' wife, Denny Martin, yells out, "Come on, y'all, we're going to be late for the farmers' meeting," with a smile on her face. They all get into their trucks and head over to the meeting. Cuts back to Jonathan and Martha Kent, riding quietly to the meeting. John replies, "So, what should we name my son?" with a smile on his face. Cuts to Martha looking down at baby Cal. Clark Kent, says Martha. It cuts to baby Cal's face, sleeping as it zooms into his eyes closed with the transition with Clark's eyes still closed. It's the year 1990 as Clark wakes up from the smell of breakfast. His mother yells out, "Clark, time for breakfast." Clark gets up in his red shirt and blue briefs, rubbing the crust out his eyes and scratching his head, not realizing he's floating as he takes a step upwards and falls quickly, rumbling the whole house and his toys on the floor. He gets up saying, "Ow!" He makes his way downstairs, tired and grunting. As Clark makes his way down, Clark's father says, "Did you feel that, Martha? That rumbling. It's not another alien ship, is it? And Martha responds back with a laughter and says, no, I don't think so. Must have been in that tractor you had parked all crooked. Must have fell over. Jonathan Kent shrugs it off as he reads the newspaper. There's my big champ. So how'd you like the Boy Scout, son? Says John. Clark starts to mumble. What was that, Clark? I can't hear you, says John while reading the newspaper. Clark's head is buried into a cereal bowl with milk bubbles flowing up. Clark gasps for air. He then says, it was fun, and ends up buried back into a cereal bowl. Cuts to Clark dressed and ready for school. Cuts to Jonathan and Clark leaving the house and into the truck. Cuts to them having a father and son moment listening to the radio playing MC's Hammers Can't Touch This. Cuts to the kindergarten that Clark intends to known as Smallville Patch Kindergarten. Montages of Clark being the kid with the rest of the children and learning. Cuts to the rest of the children at recess. Clark starts to feel funny as if he's congested with something, with the sun shining over the playground. Clark collapses. The staff call Clark's parents, not knowing that Clark's body has been absorbing the sun's rays for a while, storing them in his cells. And being that he's only a child, he couldn't handle that much weight, if you will. Cuts to Clark back at his residence with a house doctor examining Clark in his room. The doctor's response to the Kents were, it was just a mild headache and stomach pain. Nothing like some vitamins to do the trick and some liquids to keep the body hydrated and some soup for the immune system. The Kents escort the doctor out, thanking him. Clark starts to toss and turn, grunting in a point of view. In a point of view, we see Clark's eyes starting to turn red. Cuts to the Kents waving bye to the doctor from afar. Cuts back to Clark grunting louder as the red beam of light starts to make its way out of Clark's eyes. Clark screams. Red beams of light shoot out from the rooftop. Martha and John turn around in shock to see what's happening. They rush back into the house. Cuts back to Clark covering his eyes, but the red beams are causing strips and holes being made in the house, tearing it apart. Clark cries out for his parents. Mommy, Daddy, says Clark. Martha yells out, Mommy's here, sweetheart. Dad's here, son, says John. I can't stop. It won't stop, says Clark as he whimpers in fear as the red beams shoot from the roof. Listen to me, sweetie. Listen to my voice. Think of something positive. Don't let whatever it is control you. Focus on the things that makes you happy. Cuts to Clark with his head tilted up as the red beams shoot up in the air as Clark still grunts with tension in slow-mo. Cuts to montages of what makes Clark happy, such as being a Boy Scout, playing with the family dog, farming, etc., etc. Cuts back to a close-up shot of Clark's eyes beams receding. Clark opens up the door and runs into his mother's arm crying. With the house half demolished but not badly damaged, John says, it's okay, son. It's okay. It's not your fault. Transition of the house completely fixed. It's the year 2000 and Clark is in high school. Clark runs out the house to catch up with his bus. He makes it on the bus where he spots his childhood friend, Lana Lang. He sits right next to her and starts going on about rap music, science, and other miscellaneous trivial questions. Lana stops him and says, Clark, you are a dork, but my best friend at that. Thanks for helping me with my project. Clark smiles and says, you're welcome, Lana. Montages of Clark going to different classes and getting picked on. Cuts to Clark in gym class being harassed by bullies. As the bully raises his fist about to hit Clark, Lana steps in. Leave him alone, Troy, says Lana. What? He's your boyfriend or something? Says Troy. No, he's my friend. Now let him go or I'll tell everybody your secret, says Lana. What secret? Says Troy. Lana walks up to Troy and whispers inaudibles into his ears. He backs off. Clark thanks Lana for the assistance. Lana responds, no problem, best bud. Besides, you saved him a trip to the nurse's office, says Clark. What do you mean, says Lana. Nothing, says Clark. You thought you could take him? Says Lana. No, it's just punching me is like, how should I put it? Lana cuts Clark off. Save it, Clark. We have gym class to finish? Right, says Clark, rubbing his neck. Transitions back to the Kent's residence having a family dinner. Clark starts to eat fast. Clark, slow down. Chew your food first, says Martha. Sorry, Ma, but wrestling's coming on at 7 o'clock, says Clark. Well, you need to do the dishes, says Martha. Clark cleans the dishes in a blink of an eye. Martha looks at Clark with a stern face expression as he sits in front of the TV. Clark Joseph Kent, yells Martha. Clark turns around in nervousness. You call this clean, says Martha as she holds up some spat of residue that Clark claims he cleaned. Cleaning super speed in this house does not always get the job done, son. Start slow and just maybe it'll benefit, says Martha. Yes, Ma, says Clark as Clark gets up from the ground to finish cleaning up the proper way. Cuts to Clark in his bed thinking to himself, what could he be? What can he be in the future? Clark's eyes gets heavy as he falls asleep. Fast forward, Clark is now in his early 30s as a reporter for the Daily Planet, carrying groceries. While walking right next to him is Jamie Olsen explaining to Clark that he needs to do 2 stories by this week, or Perry White is going to chew him out for missing a deadline last week. Clark has been a good reporter, but every now and then he slips up because of his other job that requires his attention. Clark responds, I'll get to it, Jimmy, don't worry. All of a sudden, an explosion takes place at the Metropolis First National Bank. Jimmy says, hey, Clark, now's your chance to get a story. Jimmy turns to his side and Clark's gone. I can't believe he ditched the most important story ever. Cuts to Clark behind a brick wall as he rips open his uniform, revealing the S symbol. Cuts to the robbers as the camera pans to them leaving the scene with bags of money and everyone on the ground with the back vault demolished. One of the robbers backs up into Superman right behind him. The robber turns around in shock. Superman says, "On a Sunday?" One of the robbers let off shots at Superman. Bullets landing on the floor. The machine gun clicks. It's empty. The other robber responds, he must be wearing one of Lex Luthor's high-tech sound reverberators. That's why the bullets didn't go through him. But a knife can cut through sound. As the robber pulls out a huge knife, the robber charges at Superman and stabs him, which causes the knife to break into pieces. Superman picks the robber off the ground with just his arm. You three need a lesson in life. You can't always get things the fast way. Ah, see, that's a callback to his mom, says Superman. The robbers are in handcuffs and under arrest. Superman is greeted by Metropolis Police Department for a job well done, as always, with everyone taking pictures. But up in the building, 5 blocks down from the events that just took place, is a man who just can't stand him, the one and only Lex Luthor. Standing in his new built offices in the shadows, talking to one of his men. "Do you know how long I've been bald, Emmleton?" says Luthor in an eerie tone. As Emmleton gulps, "No, sir. It all started with one man at a place of business. My business," says Luthor. The men look at each other in fear. Cuts back to Luthor staring very hard out the window from afar as he watches Superman fly off. As Jimmy Olsen looks for Clark, Clark bumps into Jimmy. "Clark, where have you been? You missed the story for this week. Lucky for you, I got it all on my smartphone so you could type it up." "Man, you missed it. Superman showed up and settled things real quick." "Well, here you go." As Jimmy hands Clark the video for the report. Clark makes his way back to his apartment complex to begin on his paper. Clark makes his way to the elevator to the 14th floor. Clark rubs his eyes, saying to himself, "What a day, what a day." Ding goes the elevator. As the elevator doors open, right in the middle of the hallway is Lois Lane on the phone. Clark greets himself. "Hi, Miss Lane. Clark Kent." Lois cuts Clark off. "I know. Your Clark Kent worked with the Daily Planet for 2 years, tends to dip on us when the story's getting good. Bit of a Kansas City drooper, and yes, we work in the same building. Yes, hello, Mayor?" While Clark feels bummed about his encounter with Miss Lane, he tries to open the door but keeps fumbling the keys and dropping it on the floor while also dropping his groceries. While Clark is living in the big city, he still calls his parents to check up on them occasionally. Clark doesn't have much, but one thing is this. With his job giving him updates on what's going on, he can go to the source and combat them and get the early news for the paper. As Clark is almost finished typing up his paper on his laptop, he decides to take a little break. A montage of Clark being himself in his apartment. Cuts to him asleep in his boxers. With super hearing, Clark hears someone in distress. Clark wakes up out of bed in the middle of the night. He puts on his Superman garb and flies off. As Superman looks to the ground, he can see the source of the danger. Superman swoops on down to combat the threat and protect the innocent individual. As Superman intervenes, the so-called danger runs off, but it's actually a decoy to get Superman off guard. Superman's response, "Are you okay, sir?" The mysterious man stands up from the shadows with glowing green eyes sounding off-putting. "Yes, I'm fine, but you won't be," says the mysterious man. "What?" says Superman. The mysterious man charges at Superman. He throws a swing at Superman but misses, but Superman all of a sudden feels lightheaded and sick. The mysterious man starts beating up Superman. Superman blocks the punch as he sweats in agony. Superman punches the mysterious man's face. The mysterious man covers his face as he runs off. Superman tries his best to make it back to his apartment complex. He makes it back still feeling lightheaded. Clark calls his mother about his predicament. Clark passes out. The next morning, Clark's mother is in his apartment complex with a warm water washcloth over Clark's head. "Morning, sleepyhead," says Martha Kent. "Ma," says Clark. "Got any good views on his son?" says Jonathan Kent as he flips through the channels. "Pa," says Clark. Cuts to Lex Luthor in his big estate talking to the mysterious man. The mysterious man steps out of the shadows to be none other than Metallo, with half his face missing. "I did what you asked, so are you going to let me in on your plan?" says Metallo. "Did you record what I asked for?" says Luthor. "Yes, I did," says Metallo. Metallo hooks himself up to the computer screen showing what happened yesterday night. "So it does affect him," says Luthor. "You were right about the theory, Luthor. I don't know how you got these green rocks, but with all that money, you could probably excavate wherever you got them from," says Metallo. "That piece of kryptonite in your mechanical body was just a synthesized version," says Luthor. "I have the original that fell from the sky back in 2007, says Luthor. "Why spend more money when you could just use the original," says Metallo. "Because I'm still working on its internals, my boy. With the kryptonite's properties, I can make multiple uses out of it. Think about it. Better lives for the world, or for me," says Luthor in a monotone voice. Transitions back to the apartment complex where Clark and his parents are checking up on their son. Martha sets up the table and food to eat as a family. They ask Clark how he likes it here in Metropolis. Clark gives a disposition answer. Both of his parents look at each other, smirking. "A woman?" says Martha Jonathan Kent. "No," says Clark. Clark's parents don't believe him, so he finally admits, His parents give him a warm, heartfelt advice and pack up their things to head back to Smallville. Clark sits on his bed turning on the news. A news report about a fire set off in prison where the robbers who robbed the bank 3 weeks back are residing. Cuts to a prison riot where everything is in chaos. With the camera panning around thousands of prisoners holding the correction officers captive, Superman makes an entrance underneath the prison. The fire is out. Everyone back to your cells, says Superman. One prisoner says to Superman, if you come any closer, it's lights out for these officers. All right, you all want to play hardball? Says Superman. The prisoners rush the officers, and with one swoop, Superman puts them all back in their cells. Here's the whole plot. Every intricate plot is orchestrated by Lex Luthor with the help of Metallo. Lex's cunning intellect and twisted way of manipulating people is all part of his bigger plan, to have the people of Earth sway their opinion on Superman's presence on our planet, which is why he's only concerned about his image of being the world's savior and not Superman, because of what happened in the past between them, the bald reference. Superman is basically backed into a corner when different events is happening all at once, because of Lex Luthor, which becomes a secret time bomb. This will explain everything. As Lex puts Superman in the cat and mouse position behind the scenes, Superman figures it out. Being a news reporter and all, he confronts Luthor and asks him what's the meaning behind all of this. Luthor, being the super genius he is, he explains to Superman in his LexCorp building that the human race needs no hindrance. Superman tells Lex, I'm only here to help, which angers Lex even further. What makes you qualified? You hover over us just to belittle our limited feats. Well, alien, we are not limited, says Lex. Lex has a secret up his sleeve where he creates Bizarro in his chambers based on Superman's blood when battling Metallo. Bizarro gets released from his chambers to make Superman seem that he could become this way to the citizens of Metropolis, which backfires. Superman and Bizarro battle it out. Superman figures a way to defeat Bizarro by shooting him up into space and cutting off his oxygen for a split second, bringing him back down to Earth, injecting Bizarro with Kryptonian nanobots from the Fortress of Solitude. The crystal near Clark's feet as a baby. The nanobots incapacitate Bizarro, but it doesn't last that long. Superman gets hit again by Bizarro. Superman crashes Bizarro into a vacant island. They both duke it out, back to back, both bleeding. Superman says to Bizarro, please stop this. Bizarro responds, me no won't stop. Me must do what father asks. Superman gets the upper hand and pounds away at Bizarro. Superman stops as he can see Bizarro is out cold. Superman looks in disappointment as Bizarro groans in pain. I'm not like this. I was never like this. And you shouldn't be like this, says Superman as he pins down Bizarro. Superman ties Bizarro up in his own cape and flies back to Metropolis, back to LexCorp where Luthor kept Bizarro at the time. The chamber's blueprints and computers were destroyed. Superman looks in shock to see everything demolished while holding Bizarro's unconscious body. Superman walks up to the chamber, placing Bizarro back inside his quarters, freezing him. Behind Superman is Lex himself. Lex claps. Superman looks behind him in disgust. You are a megalomaniac, Lex, says Superman. To you, that's a bit much. More of a man with good intent, says Lex. Why bring such destruction to these people of Metropolis, says Superman. You are the destruction, you naive alien. I just made something to combat your soon-to-be negativity, says Lex. You're not for the people, Lex, says Superman as he shakes his head. Lex becomes annoyed by that comment. I will turn your world upside down, Superman. It's only a matter of time, says Lex. Justice will fall over your head, Lex. Remember where you stand, says Superman. Lex laughs. I have the best lawyers in town, the best secret field agents in Metropolis. My intellect is bar none, Superman. How can an alien like yourself pin me to a corner? I have Metropolis' best interest in mind, and always mine, says Lex in an ominous tone. Lex walks away, knowing Superman can't touch him, which would cause the people of Metropolis to react in a certain fashion ever since Bizarro was unleashed to the public, which swayed some of their opinion on Superman. Playing right on schedule, says Lex as he walks onto his private jet. Cuts back to the Kent's farmhouse where Clark goes to visit his mother. P.S. Times tends to move on. Clark's father passed away in between a certain point back in Metropolis during their visit again to see Clark. He's happy to see her son, carrying his belongings. Hey, Ma, how you holding up, says Clark. I'm fine, sweetie, just thinking about you and your father, you saving the world and whatnot, says Martha with a soft smile. I love you, Ma, says Clark as he kisses his mother on the cheek. I know my man is steel, says Martha as she giggles. Apple pie is on the table, if you want any, says Martha. Clark gets a slice of pie. Clark walks out into the porch with the slice of pie and looks up to the sky. Thanks, Dad, for everything. Ma's in good hands, says Clark as he sits down on the porch eating his pie. Martha walks onto the porch as well, sitting in a rocking chair. Cuts to Metropolis. A worker cleaning the side of the building windows doesn't realize that his scaffold's about to break. Cuts to Clark/Superman in space, hovering over Earth, narrating. I'm the son of a dying race, says Clark, narrating with a scene of his planet being destroyed. In Metropolis, I'm known to the people as Superman, says Clark, narrating with the scene of the people of Metropolis cheering on Superman for saving everyone from a collapsed building. Cuts back to Clark with his eyes closed and arms folded, still hovering in space. But back home, says Clark, as it cuts to Smallville sign, then cuts to Martha Kent sitting on the porch looking up into the sky with a urn and a picture of her husband by her side as she smiles. Cuts back to Clark hovering in space still. I'm just Clark Kent, says Clark, narrating. A scream for help coming from the earth as Clark's super hearing picks up the distress. Clark opens his eyes. He prepares to launch himself into the earth's atmosphere with a sonic boom. Boom cuts back to the man on the scaffold holding on to dear life, with tears in his eyes. Oh God, help me, says the distressed man. The line snaps as he begins to scream. In a blink of an eye, Superman grabs the man's arm, replying in a Boy Scout manner. Need a hand? Says Superman as the sun shines behind him. Cuts to the man's face in tears of grace. Cuts to a profile view of them both as Superman hovers beside the building holding the man as they smile. Cape flapping into the wind. Transitions with a artistic visual of that same pose at the end in comic book fashion. Cut to title credits. Cut to black, face to black. Standing next to the window looking up is a man concerned. A man walking in with his back to the camera with tea and fish fillet with French bread being placed on the table. The television is on, reporting the news. It's been 5 years since Superman graced us with his presence, says the reporter off screen on the TV. A worm's eye view of the man looking up into the sky in the manor. Suddenly, a sonic boom whizzed by over the manor. Cuts to Bruce Wayne's face with bandages and bruises from his night out at work. Master Bruce, is everything all right, says Alfred. Bruce just grunts to himself. Cuts to an ocean where you can see Superman's reflection, but it's too blurred to make of it since he is flying very fast. Hovering over a scenery is an island. Cuts to women training with each other. Pans over to the back legs of this mysterious woman. A worm's eye view of the back of the mysterious woman looking up into the sky. A sonic boom cracks the sky. Another woman places her shoulder over the mysterious woman and asks, "What was that, Diana?" "I don't know," says Diana. Roll credits. My pitch for the re-franchise of the DCEU. And I hope you guys like it. Also, to give you a good example, things are taking place. When I say there's a cat and mouse, there is cat and mouse, meaning there's things going behind the scenes. And Superman is, is going back and forth. And, he's, trying to maintain his personal life and being a hero. And in between time, his father does pass away, but there's a nice scenery where his parents come and see him again in Metropolis. He's at a diner, and with Lois and Jimmy. So he sees, he hears his father's heartbeat, and he looks, and his mom, Martha's like, "John," and he's on the chest. That's when it gets real sentimental. I don't want to get into too much detail, but I can add more into it. But it gets real, like the transition is very, heartwarming, but also sad. But also everything takes place behind the scenes, which is actually Bizarro. He's causing all these cat and mouse. That's why it's Lex Luthor pulling on the strings. So that's the DCEU re-franchise pitch, and you just got the connectivity at the end. How Bruce Wayne is in his manor looking up, and you see him, Superman. You can see the sonic boom in the air, and he know that's probably Superman because he's on the news all the time. Oh, and when the news reporter reported that it's been 5 years that Superman graced his presence, but also he was working at the Daily Planet for 2 years, Clark had other jobs. So I just want y'all to get that, clear. So that makes it real cool, and normal. Before he became a news reporter, he worked different other jobs. He worked different odd jobs and was still being Superman. So that's my, and the lady, and the person who put her shoulder over Diana's arm, that's Artemis. That's the reason I didn't say the name, but I didn't put it on, but that's Artemis who, when she's like, "What was that, Diana?" When they look up in the sky, see the sonic boom, and she's like, "I don't know." That's how you have connectivity. That's how you do the connection. That's how you do a DCEU universe. Connectivity, boy. Please tell me what you guys think, and leave a comment, share, like, please. I want to hear people's thoughts and opinions. Deuces.